Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Hannah and let's talk Les Miserables. So I am sitting up on the bed because I am fighting falling asleep right now. Actually, I am so freaking tired. And I'm also hurting quite a bit. I spent the past 3 hours like deep cleaning in the kitchen. So that's really worn me out. It's also that time of day where I am always freaking tired. I really hate it. But I just read my chapter on Les Miserables for the day and it's a rather short one, but I'm just gonna read the one just because I really don't feel like reading more today. My head's not feeling the greatest right now, so I kind of just want to get this over with a bit. But basically this chapter is called A Musket Shot That Does Not Miss But Does Not Kill. But pretty much the revolutionaries, they notice that there is a soldier that has appeared like on the roof of one of the buildings, and he can like look directly down past the barricade because basically the other side's trying to get information because they haven't been returning fire. The military has just been shooting at the barricade, and it's to like bait them into firing back until they run out of ammo, but they haven't been falling for it. So they see the person up there, and Valjean just... I really can't talk right now. That kind of shows how tired I am, I guess. But Jean Valjean takes his musket and shoots the helmet of the guy. So the helmet like goes flying off, and the guy is really scared and retreats, and then another one shows up and Jean Valjean does the same thing, and the helmet lands right next to the other one, and no one appears after that because they're too scared of being shot at. And so then they're just questioning Jean Valjean, why didn't he shoot to kill kind of thing. And it looks like that's where the next chapter starts, which is called Disorder, the Upholder of Order. So there seems to be like a lull in the barricade right now, like since they're not shooting back or anything. I mean, like no one's getting injured, no one is dying, there really isn't anything happening at this moment. They're just kind of waiting out the other side until things escalate, I guess. But our plans for tonight is we're actually going to this place called the Canadian Embassy, and we're gonna have 50-cent wings there, maple bacon wings. It's like the only place I've ever been to here that has wings, I think. And we've had them before. They are really, really good. And then after that, we're going to the movie theater that is actually right across the street from there, and we're going to see the movie Black Adam. And I have like no hopes that it's actually going to be good, but hopefully it's just like a popcorn movie where I can just turn my brain off and have no thoughts the whole time kind of deal. So I'll be back tomorrow with my thoughts on that and the next chapter. Is it gonna work this time? Yeah. Hello yet again. The construction noise outside has finally calmed down, but I'm constantly hearing cars honking their horns. I don't know what the hell is happening outside. So last night we went and saw the movie Black Adam, and I ended up giving it 2 stars. It was pretty much exactly what I was expecting, which I mean wasn't much. It's a DC movie, and right off the bat, from the first few lines of dialogue, it is so like cringy and bad. And it just kind of gets worse from there. Like the acting in this was atrocious, especially the main character child. Like he delivered every single line exactly the same, and there was so much focus on him, and he was so bad at it. Like oof. And there was a ton of action in this, and it was actually even more brutal than I was expecting for PG-13. Because I had read that this originally got an R rating and they had to cut it 4 times to get it down to PG-13. And you know that usually when they cut movies, that makes them worse than they would have been otherwise. So I mean, that's never really a good thing. But it really did need all of that action to cover up the very, very minimal plot that was going on here. There were a few things the movie was saying that I did like. For example, when Black Adam appears, this group called the Justice Society, which is just a really stupid name, they kind of show up and are like, we're here to protect you from this guy, and the people are kind of like, what? We've been oppressed for the past 27 years and you are just now showing up because our champion is here? That's a bit backwards. There were a few moments like that where I think they were trying to make a very good point, but it just didn't really feel fleshed out or come across in a well done way. And Torti is behind me pushing on my back with her back feet. What are you doing? What are you doing, tiny girl? This is definitely a movie where you can just turn your brain off for it, like not have a single thought throughout kind of thing. Do I think it's worth seeing in theaters? Probably not. It felt so long. Like, there was a moment where I was like, okay, this movie's kind of wrapping up, and then we actually went into the final act kind of thing, and I was like, oh my god, why is it not ending? So I mean, this is a movie I feel like you could start watching, take a break in the middle, and then come back to kind of deal. But moving on, I just finished my chapter in Les Miserables for the day. It is called something that I have forgotten, but probably said yesterday. Disorder, the Upholder of Order. Okay. And so this one is pretty much about how the military that is against the rebels, how they are pretty much acting on their own. They're not really following who they should. They're more just kind of coming to conclusions and acting upon that. And that's the reasoning behind why the Jean, the poet guy, why he was killed instead of being taken like prisoner kind of thing. And it references some moments of the past. And there's one reference here where it talks about how the Garde Nationale had mistaken this guy as a disciple of this certain someone by the book he was holding, when it was actually like a memoir of a different person kind of thing. So they were mistaken, and even though they're trying to kill this guy, and there is an asterisk at the end of that story, and it says how this event is supposedly to have actually happened to Victor Hugo himself in 1834, even though here he's obviously attributed it to a different person. So I thought that was kind of interesting, where Hugo was kind of like injecting a piece of himself into the story again. And then we go on to talk about the captain of the Garde Nationale that is attacking the barricade right now, and how he is like this hothead. He kind of just does things his way, and all the people under him are kind of the same. Like, they run more on emotion than like military order. And so they end up like rushing the barricade because they're impatient. They're supposed to wait until like the time is ripe, it says, but they're just like, the barricade is there, like, we're here, let's just take it over kind of thing. And so his company ends up rushing the barricade, and all of the rebels shoot on them and end up killing 15 people. And like the first 4 in the front, they go down immediately. And so the people behind are hesitating because they're not in like any sort of like military formation or anything. They're just running towards it. And so they hesitate and turn back. And this hesitation gives them time to reload. And so the people running back before they can turn the corner, they get shot and die. And the captain himself also dies this way. And I'm going to read from page 1022. I'm reading the last few paragraphs until the end here. It says, "The attack, which was more hot-headed than serious, annoyed Enjolras. 'The idiots!' he exclaimed. 'They're getting themselves killed and wasting our ammunition for no reason.' Enjolras had spoken like the born rebel leader he was. Insurrection and repression fight with different weapons. Insurrection, with limited resources, can fire only so many shots and lose only so many men. An ammunition pouch emptied or a man killed cannot be replaced. Repression, with the army at its disposal, has no need to spare men, or, with its arsenals, to spare bullets. It has as many regiments as there are defenders on the barricades, and as many factories as the barricades have cartridge cases. So these battles of 1 against 100 must always end in the crushing of the rebels, unless the spirit of revolution, spontaneously arising, casts its flaming sword into the balance. This can happen, and then it becomes a universal uprising. The very stones rise up. The strongholds of the populace teem with men. All Paris trembles. Something more than human is unloosed, and it is another 10th of August or 29th of July. A prodigious light shines, and the gaping jaws of force recoil. The lion, which is the army, comes face to face with the erect and tranquil figure of the prophet, which is France." So this is a bit of foreshadowing in how the barricade ends up falling and how everyone ends up being killed. But I mean, I do like how it's like, but there is a glimmer of hope, but that's about to be destroyed a bit. So the next chapter is called Passing Gleams, and this is actually chapter 13 of this book. So this might actually be the longest book in this book. The longest book in the book. Yeah. Oh shit. I see chapter 15 is called Gavroche. I'm not gonna be looking forward to that. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to flip forward to see how many books are in here, and I'm seeing chapter 20, like 23, so it keeps going on for quite a while. We're still gonna be in this book for a while longer. So today I've been doing a lot of like reorganizing and cleaning, like cleaning up the cat area and all of that. I really need to get in a better habit of like doing things on certain days, because I do stuff so randomly, but I really can't help it. My ADHD brain just kind of like latches onto stuff and then gets distracted by something else and goes to that, and it just is like a string of me moving on to different things. But tonight from 7:30 to 8:30, there's an event at the American Library in Paris, which is the library I go to. And it's a speaker. She's an economist. And so the event is called like the Feminists Economy or something like that. And my friend Ketavan invited me to go with her. So I'm going to meet up with her there for that. And people can ask questions and stuff, but I think I'm just gonna listen because I just kind of want to hear what's being said, really. I've never actually been to an event by the library before. Oh no, I take that back. I went to an autograph event, but not an event where there's like a speaker and stuff. So this is the first one I'll be going to. I just wish it wasn't in the evening. Like, now it gets dark at 7. So like, since that happens, like I don't want to be out after dark. So it's gonna be a bit weird leaving right as the sun is setting tonight. But yeah, we'll see how interesting of a time it is. And it is now quite a few hours later. It's a bit of a mess in the living room right now because we got a few packages today and I haven't taken care of that stuff yet. So I decided to film it here. But I just got back a little bit ago from Père Lachaise and it was such like a gorgeous, beautiful, perfect day. There were people everywhere. I got to see a few famous graves I hadn't seen before, like Edith Piaf. Hers is like way in the back right corner of the cemetery, so I've just never felt like walking out there. But I just took a shower, which is why I'm now in my pajamas, which is actually one of my dad's old shirts. And I just finished my chapter of Les Miserables. This one is called Passing Gleams, and it's basically just them kind of getting a shimmer of hope because the people of Paris kind of like rally together for an hour. And so they're like, oh my gosh, like is the town actually like on our side kind of thing. But then it quickly dies down. And so I'm going to read this paragraph. It goes from page 1022 to 1023. It says, "It is certain that for an hour or two on that morning of the 6th of June, the insurrection gained a degree of impetus. The persistent summons of the St. Mary tocsin stirred latent impulses. Barricades went up in the Rue de Poyer and the Rue des Graviers. A young man with a carbine, I don't know if it's carbine or carbine, launched a single-handed attack on a cavalry squadron at the Porte Saint-Martin. Kneeling without cover on the boulevard, he aimed at and killed the squadron commander, saying when he had done so, 'Well, that's another who won't do us any more harm.' He was cut down with sabers. In the Rue Saint-Denis, a woman fired at the National Guard from behind a Venetian blind, of which the slats were seen to tremble with every shot. A boy of 14 was caught in the Rue de la Cossonnière with his pockets filled with cartridges. A regiment of cuirassiers with General Cavagnac de Berain, I'm not sure on some of these names, at its head, was greeted as it entered the Rue Bertin-Poirier with a very lively and quite unexpected volley. In the Rue Planche-Mibray, pots and pans and other domestic articles were flung at the troops from the rooftops. A bad sign, this, and when it was reported to Marshal Soult, the Napoleonic veteran looked thoughtful, recalling an observation made by Suchet at Saragossa. When we get the old women emptying chamber pots on our heads, we're done for. If you hear weird noises in the background, that's Ori chewing on cardboard, because of course he does. So this kind of got their hopes up a little bit, but then, like I said, that quickly dies down, because people just like quickly got frustrated, and the military is obviously more like organized and has more strategy than just regular everyday people. So all that noise just kind of calms down. And then this is on page 1024. It says, "The sun had risen in the sky. A man called to Enjolras, 'We're hungry down here. Have we really got to die without getting a bite to eat?' Crouched in his redoubt, with his eyes intent on the end of the street, Enjolras merely nodded." And that's the end of that chapter. The next one is called "In which we learn the name of Enjolras's mistress," which that's really never been brought up, so it seems kind of random in a way. So it seems like we're still in kind of like this lull before the action really kicks in again. Honestly, this whole part about the barricade is so much longer than I was expecting, because obviously in like the movie and musical, it's the climax of the story, but it's also such a short event because it's basically like both sides shooting each other, everyone dies kind of thing. Where here it is a lot more strategical and there's more going on in between the scenes and around the entirety of the town even. So I'm actually really loving getting like the full picture of the barricade and what's happening, what they're thinking, what they're doing, which characters are involved. And like Eponine died so early on in that. Like it's been so long since she died. And like no one else really has since, so it feels a lot longer than just like the 24 hours it is. And so that's all for that for today. One of the packages that came in today is actually a rice cooker, and honestly, rice is one of the things I love but absolutely hate making, so I got this cute tiny little rice cooker, and it actually has like this tiny steam basket too, And like I hate like steaming stuff and making rice are like two of the things I hate the most about like cooking. And so I feel like I'm going to get a lot of use out of this. But then tomorrow is going to be the first day where I am completely alone for the entire day, because Toma will be leaving super early to catch a train, because a few days ago his grandfather passed away, and so he will be heading down to the south of France for the funeral. He will be back Friday afternoon, but it's a 6-hour train ride there and then a 6-hour train ride back. So that's a lot. It's pretty much the same amount of time it takes to fly to the US and back. I know he's gonna be exhausted, and that's just gonna be a really rough time, especially being with like his grieving family and everything. So I definitely feel for him through that. So until tomorrow. So recently we had to throw away Appa's bridge, which was actually quite tiny. We used to call him a turtle because it was basically just on top of his back. And we couldn't find the same one, and the other sizes were way too small for a chinchilla. So he ended up with this monstrosity that is just so freaking big. It takes up almost his entire level here, but we don't really have anywhere to put it. But he's already eating it, so I guess that's a good sign. But yeah, new Appa bridge. Gosh, it feels so weird to be in this chair instead of mine. Like, it almost feels like the chair is like wrapping around me. It's very odd. I'm using Toma's chair for the day since he's not going to be here the whole day. It doesn't feel weird yet because, like, I think right now it just kind of feels like he's at work, because Thursday is usually one of the days he has to go into the office. But I feel like around like 7 p.m. when he's not here for dinner is when it's gonna start feeling weird and like, where is he kind of thing. But instead, he's literally on the other side of the country right now. He actually just got to his destination. He left the house at 5:45 this morning because his train left at like 6:40. And it's a 6-hour train ride, so not very fun there. But he'll pretty much be getting home in almost exactly like 24 hours because his train leaves at about the same time tomorrow morning to come back. For now, I'm just going to enjoy having the house to myself. But I did just finish reading my chapter in Les Miserables. I actually want to read 2 chapters today though, but I want to talk about this one first because of how it ends. And so this is the one where it's called "In which we learn the name of Enjolras' mistress." And so pretty much Bossuet and Courfeyrac are kind of like teasing Enjolras a bit. And this is on page 1024. It says, "All our heroism stems from our womenfolk. A man without a woman is like a pistol without a hammer. The woman sparks the charge, but Enjolras has no woman. He contrives to be brave without being in love. It's a very remarkable thing to be cold as ice and still as hot as fire." Enjolras seemed not to be listening, but anyone near enough might have heard him murmur the word patria. And that's literally all they say of her. Like, it's just that. No one hears him say it, and so that's literally just the end of it. And so right after that, a second cannon is brought up. So one of the cannons is shooting like cannonballs, and the other one is shooting grape shot. And it's really, like, it literally says it was the beginning of the end, because the barricade has really been taking like this constant damage, and now it's even worse. And so Enjolras chooses to fire on the gunners, and they end up killing like 2/3 of them. So this is on the very next page, and this is right when they see like how well they've done at repelling the people. "Good," said Bossuet to Enjolras. "A success." Enjolras shrugged his shoulders. "Another quarter of an hour of that kind of success, and we shan't have 10 cartridges left." It seemed that Gavroche must have heard those words. And that's how that chapter ends. And the next chapter is called Gavroche. So I think this might be it, boys. So I'm a bit nervous because I'm assuming now, obviously, he's going to try and get them more cartridges and maybe either on his way out or his way back in be killed or something. So I am definitely a little worried, but just glancing at this page, it looks like he's going to be singing, and I see the first line of what he sees singing is called "They're ugly at Nanterre," which Nanterre is the area where we live, so I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, I'm going to read this chapter now and come back, and we'll see if he's still alive or not. So I know this is backlit to hell, but we're just going to ignore that because this fucking chapter. So, I almost teared up a bit. So I'm going to do something I don't think I've done before, and that is read the entire chapter. It's only 2.5 pages, but I think I need to in this case. So this is starting on page, let's see, 1026. So, I'm going to do my best here. This is the chapter called Gavroche. Courfeyrac suddenly perceived someone crouched in the street just beyond the barricade. Gavroche, having fetched a basket from the tavern, had slipped out through the break and was calmly engaged in filling it with ammunition from the pouches of the men killed in the previous assault. "What are you doing?" demanded Courfeyrac. Gavroche looked up perkily. "I'm filling my basket." "Haven't you ever heard of grape shot?" "So it's raining," said Gavroche. "So what?" "Come back at once." "All in good time," said Gavroche, and moved further along the street. It will be remembered that Fannicot's retreating company had left a trail of dead behind them. Some 20 corpses were scattered over the length of the street, 20 ammunition pouches to be looted. Smoke filled the street like a fog. Anyone who has seen low cloud at the bottom of a sheer mountain gorge will be able to picture it. That dense mist eddying and swirling between the two dark lines of tall houses. It slowly rose but was constantly renewed, a dark veil drawn over the face of the sun so that the combatants at either end of the street, short though it was, could scarcely see each other. This state of affairs, probably reckoned with and desired by the leaders of the assault, was very helpful to Gavroche. Under cover of the smoke, and thanks to his small size, he could move some distance into the street without being seen. He looted the first 7 or 8 pouches without being in much danger, creeping along on hands and knees, wriggling from one body to the next, and emptying pouches and cartridge belts like a monkey cracking nuts. He was still not far from the barricade, but no one dared shout to him to come back for fear of drawing attention to him. On one body, that of a corporal, he found a powder flask. "Handy in case of thirst," he said, and put it in his pocket. As he moved further along the street, the veil of smoke grew thinner, so that presently the soldiers of the line behind their breastwork and the men of the Garde Nationale, clustered at the corner of the street, were able to discern something moving in the haze. He was ransacking the pouch of a sergeant lying near a curbstone when the body was hit by a bullet. "Blazes!" said Gavroche. "Now they're killing dead men!" A second bullet struck a spark from the nearby cobbles, and a third overturned his basket. Looking up, Gavroche saw that it had come from the street corner. He got to his feet, and standing erect with his hands on his hips, his eyes fixed on the men of the Garde Nationale, he's saying, "They're ugly at Nanterre, it's the fault of Voltaire, and stupid at Palaiseau, all because of Rousseau." Then he picked up his basket, retrieved the cartridges that had fallen out of it without losing one, and moved still nearer to the attackers to loot another pouch. A fourth bullet narrowly missed him. He's saying, "I'm no lawyer, I declare, it's the fault of Voltaire. I'm nothing but a sparrow, all because of Rousseau." A fifth bullet succeeded only in drawing another verse from him. "There's joy in the air, thanks to Voltaire, but misery below, so says Rousseau." This went on for some time, a touching and heart-rending scene. Gavroche, being shot at, mocked the shooters. He seemed to be thoroughly enjoying himself, a sparrow pecking at the bird-catchers. Every shot inspired him to another verse. They fired again and again at him and missed, and the soldiers and the men of the Garde Nationale laughed as they took aim. He leapt and dodged, ducked into doorways, vanished and reappeared, cocking a snook at the foe, and all the time continued to empty pouches and fill his basket. The rebels watched in breathless anxiety. The barricade trembled, and he sang. He was neither child nor man, but a puckish sprite, a dwarf, it seemed, invulnerable in battle. The bullets pursued him, but he was more agile than they. The urchin played his game of hide-and-seek with death, and whenever the dread spectre appeared, he tweaked its nose. But at length a bullet caught him, better aimed or more treacherous than the rest. Gavroche was seen to stagger, and then he collapsed. A cry went up from the barricade, but there was an Antaeus concealed in that pygmy. A Paris urchin touching the pavement is a giant drawing strength from his mother earth. Gavroche had fallen, only to rise again. He sat upright with blood streaming down his face, and raising his arms above his head and gazing in the direction of the shot, he again began to sing. "I have fallen, I swear, it's the fault of Voltaire, or else this hard blow has been dealt by—" He did not finish the verse. A second ball from the same musket cut him short. This time he fell face down and moved no more. His gallant soul had fled. I am sad. So that is the story of Gavroche. And his death in the book is actually very similar to how it is in the musical and the movies. I do recall that he goes out past the barricade, but it's usually what happens right away. Like, it's usually the first thing that happens, and that's kind of what triggers everyone shooting back and forth kind of thing. And so I think them kind of changing the order of things a bit is actually pretty well done. But my God, the Thénardier children in this are just, their whole lives are so fucked. Like, I'm actually curious if we're going to find out the fates of the other children, because there was 5, now we're down to 3. The sister that is left and the 2 brothers, and we really haven't heard about them in a long time, so I'm not sure if we'll ever find out what happened to them. But now I feel like this is when all hell is gonna break loose, and this is probably when the people on the barricade are just gonna, go a bit crazy kind of thing. But man, what a depressing way to end the day there. So what is even the next chapter called? How a brother becomes a father, which seems very weird. Looks like it's quite a long chapter, actually. But, God, I don't even know what to say. Like, that's just such an emotional chapter. And Gavroche is such a great character in this. Like, he's really much more of a character in the book than anything else I've ever seen of Les Miserables. And I think he's definitely one of my favorite characters. Like, he's so obviously mature for his years from having to live on the street, and I'm really not sure what his age is in here. I'm probably gonna have to look that up, because I've been so bad at keeping track of the years and everything. I definitely don't know how old he's supposed to be right there. But I also don't understand, why didn't he try to go back when they started shooting at him? Like, he was collecting the cartridges. Like, you think he would want to get them back to the people that need them. And I mean, like, I understand why he did it. It was an act of defiance. But still, like, you're doing it for, like, the people on the other side of the barricade. So you think he would want to get that to them, and he couldn't. And, oh, it's just a lot. So, yeah, I think I'm going to stop there, or else I'm just going to keep rambling. So, talk to you tomorrow. It's a few hours later, and I am actually getting ready to read out on the terrace. I'm going to read a few more chapters of Frankenstein, actually. I'm just about to start part 3. It's what I was reading last night in bed, actually. And the fact that I can, like, comfortably, very comfortably, sit out here at the end of October and read is insane. Like, I don't know if I said already, but this is supposed to be, like, the hottest October ever recorded in France, so this feels like summer. It's very, very strange. Like, to give an example, my strawberry plants are still making strawberries. We are literally just a few days from Halloween. Like, what is this? My keyboard is being invaded by a tiny Torti. Usually Toma is doing his painting and Warhammer stuff, so she generally watches him do that. But since he's not here, she's coming here and trying to be a keyboard loaf. Yeah. Yes, you are. Oh God. Oh God, what, oh. Okay, hi. What are you doing, baby girl? Oh my goodness. Oh, you are pressing all the buttons. Yeah, that's a thing. Okay. Are you trying to get up now? Are you stuck? Oh. What are you doing? Weirdo girl. And we actually have another really nice day. Our high today is 75. I think it's supposed to be like 73 right now. So this is very, very unusual weather. So yesterday Toma got home from his grandfather's funeral at about 3 p.m. And with some other things happening that day, I just didn't really get around to reading my chapter. So I just read 2 in here, and we're still in the same book. It's not over yet. And so the first chapter I read today is called How a Brother Becomes a Father. And gosh, the wind is actually shaking my camera. And I had mentioned last time how I was wondering if we were ever going to hear anything about any of the other Thénardier children, and this answered that right away. We basically pan over to Gavroche's 2 brothers, and they still have no home. They're still basically completely lost. And they are in the Luxembourg Garden, which is actually closed in here because of, like, the barricade and rebellion and all this stuff happening. And it's really depressing because it says this on page 1029. It says, in short, they had become a statistic, recorded by the police under the heading Enfants abandonnés, and picked up by them in the streets of Paris. And basically, it's actually most of this chapter is just describing the park, but pretty much they see this older man with his 6-year-old son, and so they hide and are kind of like watching them, and the son is eating this bun, and the kid freaking starts crying because he's like, I'm not hungry, but I still have this bun. And the old guy's like, we'll throw it in the water for the swans or whatever. And I think he did this on purpose and knowingly, because the kid throws it and then the guy immediately like takes him away. He was like, you don't need to see the swans, actually eat it, like let's go, we need to get out of here, it might be getting dangerous kind of thing. And so when they leave, the boys obviously grab the bun to eat it because they haven't had anything to eat in who knows how long. And also in this chapter it says that the two boys are 5 and 8, and obviously the 8-year-old, the older brother, has to kind of act like the protector of the younger one, which is where the title of this chapter comes from. And that's really all that happens. They just have this bun, and then we go back to the barricade in the next chapter, because this chapter literally ends with the bun was soaked, but the boys were both hungry and thirsty. The elder boy divided it into 2 parts, one large and one small, and handing his brother the larger of the 2, said, there you are, stop your gob with that. And so the next chapter is called Interlude, and this is exactly what it says. It's a lull in the fighting going on, and it talks about how like a lot of people think it's just always like action happening in situations like this, but that's not the case. There are moments where people are literally just like loitering around kind of thing. And so all that happens in this chapter is Marius and Combeferre, they immediately after Gavroche is shot, jump over the barricade and go to him. One grabs his body, the other grabs the basket, and so they bring back all those cartridges he had gathered, and they set his body next to Père Mabeuf and have them both like covered over the same blanket, and that's all there. So now the next chapter is called The Vulture Becomes Prey, and that is where I will start next week. And this weekend is Halloween weekend. We don't have any plans for anything. Like tomorrow we're gonna play our Curse of Strahd campaign, which since that's like a horror one, that is kind of Halloween-y. But like for actual Halloween day, my plan is literally to just watch movies all day. I don't want to go anywhere besides maybe the movie theater. We're gonna go see a horror movie that just came out this week, and that's about it. I just want to do spooky stuff at home. So thank you for hanging out with me. It is always appreciated, and until next time, bonne journée and au revoir.